I'm happy enough with the signing, but doesn't touch the sides in terms of the additional centre back, the central midfielders that we need, and maybe one more attacker. That's still
You
important.
concerned about the sell to buy story, Terry? The fact
no, I'm actually. I spoke about it this morning, brother. It's a good question. I'm not. I feel like that's the right thing for us to do, because the last thing we want is a bloated squad. Every manager worth his salt talks about having too many players in their squad, the problems that creates in dressing rooms. We saw it very recently with Chelsea when they had too many players and it was hard to manage the situation. So as much as I want Ugarte and Zubimendi, as much as I'd like Branthwaite or De Ligt to come in at this point, I don't want us to sign them and then not find a home for McTominay, not find a home for Casemiro, not find a home for Lindelof. And then you do one of two things. You have a bloated squad, or you end up being forced into selling those players well below market value. We have undersold the vast majority of our players in the last 11 years. So again, I said at the beginning of the summer, and sometimes you forget things you say because there's so much content, there's so many conversations, but I go back to it and I stand by it. I would rather us miss out on a player or two, but have the right principles, than start off this rebuild on the wrong foot. Start this rebuild off in sort of under the Woodward banner, if that makes sense. But do you know what? We'll just let McTominay go for 10 million because that's all Fulham are prepared to pay, because we've gone and signed Ugarte and we have to make room in the squad. I'd rather get rid of those players first. You know, City, Liverpool, the two most successful teams of the last decade, have both been celebrated by the media, rivals, and our own fans alike for selling to buy. I don't see why Man United should suffer any criticism, or our fans should panic at any moment having to do the same thing personally.
I feel like you may have to accept selling some of these players for less than you want because of what happened with the old regime. They signed these players or promoted these players from the academy, give them big contracts. They haven't impressed. So you've got the McTominays, the Wan-Bissakas, all on big money. You know, obviously we tried to sign Wan-Bissaka. You know, Man United wanted more money than we were willing to pay. So if you are looking to move these players on, the longer that takes, if you are in a sell to buy situation, the more you are going to miss out on some of the players and some of the deals. And as it gets closer to the transfer window, it gets a lot hotter, a lot more stressful.
No, I agree, and we may end up being forced into doing that. I actually also don't think the public price that the media is stating that is clearly briefed from us is exactly what we want. So I think if we're publicly stating we want 50 million, we're probably happy with 35. So it's about getting it done right. The problem is we had like Danny Welbeck, who was sold for like 12 million. We allowed Javier Hernandez to leave for £7 million. And there was players of much lower quality. Like the fact that Liverpool got 25 million for Jordan Ibe, and we're letting Danny Welbeck go for 12 million quid. It never made sense. And it's about
we bought Hernandez from the club you sold him to for like 18 million, if I remember.
Yeah, you bought him for more than we sold him for.
Yeah.
It is absolutely horrendous business that we have done. And I do think the way you behave in those circles impacts the way you perform on the football pitch. Not directly correlates, but I believe it's a part of the way you're looked at, the way you feel, the aura that you give off as a football club. If you're looked at as weak in multiple areas, multiple facets, I think it makes people view you differently. I think the players feel differently about their club. You know, it's like having a soft boss at work. You think, I need him to go and fight with the MD to get me a promotion or get me a pay rise. If you've got a weak boss that none of you respect, are you confident in them delivering for you? No. And I think that's why I want this to work. We probably will undersell a few slightly more than what the media is stating, but we'll definitely, so far this summer, we've done a phenomenal job in comparison to the last 11 years.
I think we did a good job so far.
Yeah, so far a good job, and we'll see what else happens. Donna Cullen here says, Wagwan, Mr. Lawless, looking handsome today.
This Donna Cullen, honestly.
By the way, Hussam got him to phone into a show. It's a dude. It is a dude.
Yeah, we knew that.
Yeah, we did know.
Fair play actually phoned in.
Yeah.
I wish I would have seen that.
Guys, does the agent fee count for the FFP? Yes. I mean, if your club loses money, you can't factor out agent fees that were spent, which is why Mbappe is not a free transfer. It's why he is not zero on net spend, because he's cost on signing on fees and agent fees. He's cost Real Madrid around 200 million So that still comes out of that comes out of somewhere. It comes out of the actual net spend, which is the profit and loss of the football club. So yes, agent fees count. In terms of agent fees in recent years, I actually was looking at this earlier on just to do some research. This is mad. In the last 12 months, this was as of April, Chelsea top the charts, £75 million spent on agent fees. City, then 60 million on agent fees. Then Man United and Liverpool both on around 30 million. Arsenal, 24 million. Villa, 21 million. Spurs, 20 million. West Ham in 10th place. They're on 13 million spent on agent fees. So clubs do spend a significant... I mean, I know Chelsea's on a lot of players, though, so that's why theirs is higher. But 75 million on agent fees. And, you know, there was a lot of talk about City. City have had a lot of players they've bought. And they've got, that's a good price, you know. Got them for like 50 million. And then you look at what they've paid the agent. So
how can we regulate this? How can we stop agents leeching so much money out?
There is already. I mean, the regulation is coming. It's either 10 or 15%. They can't get 10 or 15%. They can only get 10 to 15% of the overall transfer fee now. What I will say about agents, some do a very good job. And I'll tell you why some do a very good job, though. And this is what I will say about agents where I'll defend them. I think football players are more educated now than they were. But would you still say that with a young footballer, he's heading the game, have you seen a footballer's contract? Do you know how complex they are? They're ridiculously complex. I think if agents didn't exist, I think footballers would get exploited by the fat cats that run football for so much more. I think you'd have players now who deserves their salary. Let's just say Bruno Fernandes being on 240. No, we won't use any Man United player because that will trigger Staffy. Let's just say Haaland earning like 400 grand a week, right? 400.
Bro, I said nothing.
No, I know, I'm joking, my bro. Haaland probably deserves these 400 grand a week that he's on. Say he's on that. If his dad wasn't his agent and he just handled it all himself, my belief is he'd probably be earning 100 grand a week, which is still a lot of money for the average working person like us. Where would all that money and that extra profit go? It'd go into the pockets of the people that own the football clubs. So I'd rather I think footballers get much better deals. They earn so much more money than they used to because of the agents. So I think they do a good element, but I still look at it and think too much money goes out of football in terms of the fees they get. As an example, I've always felt that the majority of the agent's fee should come from what they make their client, which in the entertainment world, because my dad was an agent for many years, if you get an actor a job and it's like 100 grand, that agent gets 5, 10, 12 and a half, whatever the deal is, % of that money. It isn't like the production company is paying the agent a separate fee. But then my dad wasn't dealing with multi-millionaire actors and singers. I suppose if you're a production company or a film studio and you're like, look, we want DiCaprio for this film, maybe there's an agent out there or a person that knows DiCaprio that's like, I can convince him. But if I convince him, I want you to pay me to do that. And I suppose that's where they come in. You know, a lot of these deals wouldn't get done without intermediaries and agents as well.
That's the thing. I'm not saying that I don't think they shouldn't exist, agents. I think, you need someone to handle that on behalf of the players. The player wants to focus on his play. But the problem is they always overstep their bounds. Do you know what I mean? When you have agents, convincing players where they should go and what they should do in terms of football. No, you're there to negotiate, get the best deal for the player. And we've seen agents constantly try and get their players to move clubs time and time again so they can keep getting that fee, that agent fee, every time there's a transfer. So these agents end up acting in their own interest rather than
I agree.
And that cap is important because if there's a cap, and the agent can't say, well, no, I want a 5 million fee. I want, a 6, whatever.
The worrying deals, again, that still exist are the ones where you get. So when you look at Haaland, so yes, his buyout clause was like 52 million at Dortmund, but you also had to pay the agency, which God rest his soul was Mino Raiola's agency, 25 million, and you had to pay his father 25 million. So his father earned 25 million for his son being sold. So City didn't get Haaland for 52 million. They got him for 102 million plus a signing on fee, which is typically 10 to 20% of the transfer fee. So That's why I don't use net spend, because the net spend shows you he cost them 52 million. In reality,
what makes you qualified to be an agent, Terry? He's just an ex-player, so that's what I'm saying. Anyone can be an agent, literally anyone.
But then there's more money that goes into it. So some agents are also lawyers. So I've got a friend who is a lawyer, but he's also UEFA accredited. They still then some of these agents still have to then go and use lawyers, and then some of them still have to use intermediaries that are professionally trained within football to actually do the negotiating. So the agent is more, no, of course. And then it's extra money. And this is the thing. Then you've got to pay the intermediaries. Then you've got to pay the lawyers. And these lawyers are charging thousands an hour. And they're doing tens and tens of hours of work. There's so much money that comes out of it. It's true.